The importance of the Halfaya Pass had quickly become apparent to both the British and the Germans. It changed hands on numerous occasions, the Germans gaining back possession of the pass on the 27th of May 1941 during Operation Skorpion. Playing a major part in the recapture of the pass was 49-year-old Hauptmann Wilhelm Georg Bach, a cigar-smoking Lutheran pastor. In command of the 1st Battalion Schützenregiment 104, Bach recaptured Halfaya Pass as the 3rd Battalion Coldstream Guards under Lieutenant Colonel J. Mowbray was forced to pull back. In this video we will take a look at the attempt of the British to recapture the pass the next month. The Halfaya Pass was an important strategic position for several reasons. It dominated the only coastal route between Egypt and Libya. The pass also provided a commanding view of the surroundings, making it a formidable place to take. While the British gained possession of the pass during Operation Brevity, they quickly lost it to the Deutsche Afrika-Korps under Erwin Rommel during the German Unternehmen Skorpion. The British Operation Battle Axe was almost an exact copy of Brevity, the major difference being the amount of forces involved, Battle Axe having significantly more resources. The task of recapturing the Halfaya Pass was assigned to the 11th Brigade of the 4th Indian Infantry Division, supported by the 4th Royal Tank Regiment. For the right flank of Battle Axe, Beresford Pierce, the commander of the 13th Corps, envisaged a double assault along the coast and via the escarpment, where the Halfaya Pass was located. A part of the escarpment force was the Halfaya Group. It consisted of the 2nd Battalion Cameron Highlanders and 12 Matilda Mark IIs and a Vickers Mark VI of the C Squadron 4th Royal Tank Regiment. At the foot of the pass, close to the coast, was Coast Force, with the 1st 6th Rajputana Rifles and the 2nd 5th Mahrattas of the 11th Brigade and 6 Matilda Mark IIs of 2 troops of the 4th Royal Tank Regiment's A Squadron. However, it wouldn't be a walk in the park for the Indian and British attackers. Under the directive of Rommel, the Deutsche Afrika-Korps had turned several positions into formidable defences, including the Halfaya position. All across the Egyptian-Libyan border, German and Italian garrisons were strengthened with mines, trenches and anti-tank positions. The FlaK 88 played a great part in these defences. The Halfaya garrison consisted of Hauptmann Bach's 1st, 3rd and 4th companies of the 1st Battalion Schützenregiment 104 and the 2nd Battaglione of the 64th Reggimento di Fanteria of the Italian Trento Division. Providing the artillery and anti-tank guns were the 1st Battery of the FlaK Regiment 33. They provided 4 FlaK 88s and 8 2cm flak guns. However, also Gruppo Pardi was a part of the Halfaya defences. This group of the 2nd Artiglieria Celere increased the defences with 8 guns of the 100-17 type. On the 15th of June 1941, Operation Battle Axe commenced. At first everything seemed to be going alright for the 2nd Cameron Highlanders. The Matildas of C Squadron also gently rolled forward at 6 AM in the loose sand. However, as they rolled within range of Hauptmann Bach's 88mm guns, one Matilda after another was knocked out. By 9:30 the initial fight had ceased, the British quickly regrouped and attacked again. Eventually 11 wrecks were smouldering under the blazing sun. The 41-year-old Major Cecil Gordon Miles, in command of the squadron, was one of the victims of the deadly 88mm flak guns. Just before a deadly round hit his Matilda, he transmitted the message that these bloody guns were tearing his tanks to pieces. Despite having lost their armour support, the Cameron Highlanders fought on. Their attack was beaten back by the men under Bach, who had by that time counterattacked at several locations. The pass remained under German-Italian control. The British attack along the coast also wasn't going according to plan. The 6 Matildas had run into a minefield. 4 were quickly immobilized and became easy targets for Bach's men. One of the troop leaders, 2nd Lieutenant Rowe, had lost both his legs, one arm and an eye. At the same time, 2nd Lieutenant Pip Gardner brought the survivors back to safety. Unfortunately, the dying 21-year-old Rowe was too heavy to be brought back. Gardner remained with Rowe until the 21-year-old succumbed to his wounds. It remains unclear whether this occurred on the 15th or the 16th. Lieutenant Percival John Rowe is commemorated on the El Alamein Memorial. Gardner was recommended for the Victoria Cross, but he received the Military Cross instead. The 1st 6th Rajputana Rifles and the 2nd 5th Mahrattas carried on regardless, but their attacks were also beaten back by heavy machine gun fire and artillery. The attacks of the 15th hadn't brought the British any closer to the possession of the Halfaya Pass. However, for the Germans and Italians of the garrison, things were also deteriorating. More to the west and northwest, the British did manage to break through at some points, which meant that the men of Hauptmann Bach had become surrounded. The following day, the 11th Brigade continued their attacks. With the Cameron Highlanders in support, the Indian battalions made a second attempt to dislodge the Germans from the top of the pass. Yet again they came under withering machine gun and artillery fire. The Cameron Highlanders were called upon to support, but little extra ground was gained. During the struggle, the Rajputana Rifles commander, Lieutenant Colonel Skrine, was killed. The British and Indian battalions were once again forced to pull back. Unknown to the British, the Halfaya Pass nearly became untenable to hold. The garrison only had food and ammunition for a few days and the stocks were rapidly shrinking. In fact, if the British continued their attacks like the previous day, it was well possible that the garrison would fire practically all of its ammunition. However, for the 49-year-old Bach and his men, the capture of Sidi Suleiman by the 15th Panzer Division on the 17th of June came as a great relief. The British were forced to pull back and the Germans made contact with Bach. The garrison had withstood the British attacks. By the end of the 3 days of combat, the Halfaya Pass defenders had claimed to have destroyed 20 tanks. They also managed to take 98 prisoners and inflicted heavy casualties to the British and Indian attackers. The men under Bach only had 8 men killed and 32 wounded. The attack on Halfaya Pass on the 15th of June 1941 was a defeat for the British. Moreover, it was a defeat for the Matilda Mark II. The Queen of the Desert had been pushed off her throne. The FlaK 88s knocked out one tank after another. The Matilda tank was no longer the well-armoured infantry support tank. With its 40mm main gun and without high explosive shells, it posed no threat to the well-dug-in German and Italian defenders of the Halfaya Pass. For his actions in defending the pass, Hauptmann Wilhelm Bach was promoted to Major, and on the 9th of July he was awarded with the prestigious Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. The battle for Halfaya was fierce and saw acts of bravery on both sides, but in the end the Germans remained in possession of the pass, which gained the nickname of Hellfire Pass owing to the staunch defence of Bach and his men. Bach was captured by the Allies in 1942. He was brought to Canada as a prisoner of war, where he died of cancer that same year. This was the Ace Destroyer. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. I hope to see you in another video. Cheers.